Does union busting help with recruitment?
No.
I know nothing about unions whatsoever.
Again, another low IQ implementation. I just want to be clear that the American people should know that these are all Trump 2.0 policies. We're talking about ICE agents getting an additional $44,000 per person, while on average, when we talk about our COs at the BOP only making $57,000 and talking about cutting up to 25% of that. I'll help you. It says Congress provided no increase to the BOP's salaries and expenses account in fiscal year 2024, despite the staffing crisis that has been linked to prisoner deaths and a cascade of operational problems at the agency.
Rep. Jasmine Crockett takedown wasn't just a fiery 5-minute. It was a numbers lesson, a reality check, and a moral argument all at once. She did something too few politicians do. She connected policy details to everyday consequences and then held up the math so people could see what the bill really costs and who pays for it.
I've got 3 statements that I want to know if you agree or disagree with, and I want to just go down the row. Yes or no? Does cutting pay typically assist in recruiting a workforce? Yes or no?
No. No.
Generally, no.
No.
Thank you. It sounds like a low IQ implementation to me. So let's go to the next one. Does poor working conditions assist with recruitment? Yes or no?
No. No.
No.
No.
Sounds like another low IQ implementation to me. And finally, I'm going to start with Mr. Potter because I don't know how this is going to go. Does union busting help with recruitment?
No.
I know nothing about unions whatsoever. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
I don't know anything about unions either.
Okay.
No.
Okay, so again, another low IQ implementation. I just want to be clear that the American people should know that these are all Trump 2.0 policies. So when we say that he's failed, let me tell you, we got receipts, and those are some of the receipts. So when we start talking about this pay, I think that we've talked about the fact that there was a 25%, up to a 25% cut in recruitment bonuses or retention bonuses, but I want to make sure that people understand the numbers. I want y'all to know what the numbers are. It looks like on average in 2023, the average CO for the BOP made $57,000. So now we're talking about potentially up to a 25% cut in that. Now let's transpose that with what they don't want to talk about is what we did last week, which was reconciliation, where in their bill, they decided that they wanted to add this big number as an increase for bonuses for ICE agents. What that translated to was bonuses of approximately $44,000 for each ICE agent. So we're talking about ICE agents getting an additional $44,000 per person, while on average, when we talk about our COs at the BOP only making $57,000 and talking about cutting up to 25% of that. That is why we're outraged. That is why we say that this is a joke, because you can't sit here and continuously underfund an agency and then expect it to overperform. So let's talk about the underfunding. We have talked about immigration for a reason, not because we think that it makes sense to just talk about immigration all day, every day. It seems like our colleagues on the other side of the aisle want to do it, but it is relevant to this conversation. You know why? Because according to this particular document from The Guardian, it says, as it relates to a partnership between BOP and ICE, 2 agencies that have generally operated separately, means people accused of civil immigration violations are being imprisoned in harsh environments of the federal penitentiaries run by prison guards. Right now, I believe that the number was, the most recent number that I had was that they had approximately 700 persons that were being held for ICE within the Bureau of Prisons. And guess what? Do you think they gave the BOP any extra dollars to be able to take care of those folks? They didn't. I'll help you. It says Congress provided no increase to the BOP's salaries and expenses account in fiscal year 2024, despite the staffing crisis that has been linked to prisoner deaths and a cascade of operational problems at the agency. So, we talked about rape. So let me get to rape. It seems like it's a bit of hypocrisy, but that's not anything new, to say that you want to protect victims of rape and sexual assault and then allow Trump to gut funding for the Prison Rape Elimination Act Resource Center, a center that trains prison sexual assault auditors, tracks the results of the Prison Rape Elimination Act investigations, and provides resources to imprisoned sexual abuse survivors. So my question is, and I ask everyone if you can answer, can we all agree that rape and assault of prisoners is vile and completely unacceptable?
I agree.
I agree.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And the last thing that I'll say is that according to the BOP, there have been a total of 2 individuals that have received gender-affirming surgery while in BOP custody. There have been a total of 4 others that were referred and were determined to be medically ineligible. So we're gonna have all this talk and all these fights about trans folk, and we're talking about literally 2 surgeries. I'll yield.
Start with the basic test she gave the witnesses. 3 very simple questions about recruitment. Does cutting pay help you hire? No. Do awful working conditions help you hire? No. Does union busting help you hire? No. Those aren't rhetorical, they're basic labor economics. If you want a functioning public safety workforce, correctional officers, nurses, clinicians, educators, you pay them, protect them, and give them stable, humane conditions. Undermine those 3 things and you get the opposite: vacancies, burnout, mistakes, and then tragedies. Crockett then did the most effective political move there is. She compared apples to apples. The average Bureau of Prisons correctional officer pay is roughly in the mid-$50,000, and yet the congressional proposals and administrative moves she described would cut pay or keep BOP funding flat, even as other enforcement agencies are slated for huge recruitment bonanzas. At the same time, ICE agents are positioned for massive bonuses, upwards of tens of thousands of dollars each. That's a policy choice, not an accident, and it has human consequences inside facilities. She also named the moral costs. The Department of Justice cut funding for the National PREA Resource Center, the hub that supported training, audits, and prevention of sexual assault in prisons. That center didn't exist to be ideological. It existed because prisons have a documented problem with sexual violence, and the federal government is supposed to help eradicate it. Pulling that funding while giving bonus windfalls to enforcement agents is a grotesque misalignment of priorities. More muscle for enforcement, less care for safety inside facilities. Crockett framed that as hypocrisy, and she was right to do so. She also pushed the committee to stop obsessing over culture war talking points and look at scale and impact. When conservative members scream about gender-affirming surgeries in custody, the data tell a different story. Access to gender-affirming surgical care in federal custody has been vanishingly rare, only a handful of people over decades. That's not a policy crisis to justify broad bans. It's a careful, litigated, clinical process involving very few people. Meanwhile, cutting PREA funds and failing to staff prisons properly will increase sexual violence in mass. Which problem do you think deserves the national spotlight? Crockett's testimony is powerful because she ties the abstract back to household reality. She mentions the au pair J visa worker who helps her family, a concrete example of how immigration rules plug into people's daily lives. She describes the caregiving workforce. Nearly a third of long-term care providers are immigrants, and how blocking visas threatens hospitals, residency pipelines, and the people who rely on home care. Those aren't partisan talking points. They're empirical links between policy choices and lives saved or lost. When you deprive hospitals of trainees and clinics of foreign-trained physicians, wait times grow and outcomes worsen. That's not speculative, it's foreseeable. Here's what Crockett wanted viewers to understand and why you should care. Policy is math and incentives. If you slash pay and ignore working conditions, you will hollow out the very agencies tasked with safety. You can't simultaneously underfund the people who run prisons and expand enforcement missions. That mismatch produces avoidable harm. Focusing on culture war abstractions that affect only a handful of people is a political trick when deep systemic problems, staffing shortages, sexual violence, inadequate medical care are going unaddressed. Immigrants contribute to the economy and public health. Treating them as a cudgel while giving huge bonuses to enforcement priorities is a moral and practical contradiction. What you can do after watching this? Call your representative and ask 3 things. Restore and increase BOP salaries and staffing support so prisons are safe and humane. Restore funding to PREA and evidence-based prevention programs. And oppose reckless enforcement spending that prioritizes hiring and bonus packages for deportation forces without accountability or community safety planning. Vote and organize around candidates who understand the upside of well-resourced public institutions, not the spectacle of underfunding one agency while supercharging another.